The book, One Person, No Vote, really came out of the fact that our democracy is under assault. And it's under assault in the most subtle, seemingly reasonable kinds of ways that are in fact very pernicious, very racist, very class-based. I began to see it when I was out giving talks on white rage, which is the book that is right before this one. And in that book, I'm talking about the ways that policy systematically undermine the ways that African Americans have achieved access to their civil rights. And one of those basic civil rights, the right to vote. And when I started talking about voter suppression, I'd get this kind of stunned look in the audience. And then usually a question about I don't understand. How hard is it to get an ID? And we've got to protect the integrity of the ballot box. We have to make sure that the people who aren't supposed to be voting aren't voting. And so an ID seems very reasonable, except the way that it's implemented is not reasonable. In fact, it is heavily skewed. It is racially skewed. It is skewed as well against youth, and it is skewed against the poor. It is pernicious because it is masked so beautifully. So what I set out to do in One Person, No Vote is help destabilize that narrative of reasonableness, because this isn't reasonable at all. It is in fact undemocratic. How did this happen? And that's what a scholar asks. How did this happen? Why is this happening? One of the key pieces that made Emory so vital for this work, and that I relied upon my research assistants to do, was to begin to hunt down this evidence. And Emory's Rose Library has the Southern Christian Leadership Conference papers. And they provided a wealth of evidence about the battle for voting rights after the Voting Rights Act of 1965. My historical knowledge really helped provide the context for what we were seeing in current events. And that historical knowledge then provided the groundings, because people were like, oh my God, this has never happened before. Oh yes, it has. So to provide that context then allows us to see the patterns, the rhythms, but it also allows us to see that these are ongoing struggles, and it also helps us to see that it's been really dark before. President Stirk talks about Emory being in the service of humanity. And that expertise that we have here at Emory is in the service of humanity. And it is in us coming together and understanding that there is something powerful and wonderful for us to fight for.